Hello and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Angel Ayala. I'm the veteran counselor here at Tarrant County College, Trinity River campus, and I just want to welcome you to the presentation today. I hope that you can walk away with some new knowledge that you did not have before. So let's jump right in. Today we're going to be talking about alcohol. Tell me more. We're going to be talking about drugs. What about them? We're going to be talking about why do students drink or use drugs? We'll be answering the question, how do we know if it's becoming a problem? What can it hurt? We'll be taking a look at the consequences for students, taking a quick look at the research, and then my favorite part is finding solutions. So alcohol, tell me more. Well, alcohol is a depressant. It depresses the central nervous system, which is why it causes people to react slowly. Alcohol affects men and women differently. In low doses, alcohol can change your mood and behavior, but it can cause delayed reaction, making it harder to think clearly. And it actually numbs the frontal cortex being where all of our decision making occurs. And so that's why sometimes when people drink a lot of alcohol, they don't make the best decisions because that part of the brain is numbed from the alcohol. In higher doses, alcohol can cause slurred speech, blurred vision, and loss of coordination. And that's why it's so dangerous to be behind the wheel of an automobile when you're under the influence of alcohol. Drugs. Let's talk about drugs. Well, what about them? Well, different types of drugs affect your body in different ways. We will go through a couple of those different drug types just so you have an idea. You may already know, and it may be like a refresher for you. They do have some short-term and long-term effects, which both can be physical and psychological. Many people don't think drugs are a problem because they're only a casual drug user. But nowadays, drugs are becoming increasingly more and more dangerous because drug dealers are lacing those drugs with new compounds, and we'll discuss that in a moment. So there are three main types of drugs. The three main types are depressants, hallucinogens, and stimulants. Depressants slow the function of the central nervous system, much in the way that alcohol does. They slow the messages going to and from your brain. So examples of depressants are alcohol, opiates, and benzodiazepines. Hallucinogens distort your sense of reality. You may see or hear things that are not there or things in a distorted way. So some examples of the hallucinogens are the shrooms, LSD, the MDMA, and cannabis. That's right, marijuana is actually a hallucinogen. It falls under this category because it distorts the way that you may see or feel. And then last but not least, we have stimulants. Stimulants speed up the nervous system. They speed up the messaging to and from the brain, making you feel more alert and confident. Examples of stimulants include caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, amphetamines, and methamphetamines. So all of these are examples of stimulants. There are a variety of reasons why students drink or use drugs. They've done the research, they've asked the questions to the students, and these are their answers. First of all, drinking or using drugs can enhance their mood. So if they're looking to feel better, enhancing their mood is the way to do it. Another way is to help them to cope with stress. So coming out of high school into more of an adult situation, there are a lot more stressors that happen to the individual. And so a lot of students have found that if they drink or use in some way, shape, or form, that it will actually help them to feel a little bit better or reduce that stress. Another way is to fit in with their peers. So if they're in a social situation and their peers are using, if their peers are drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, or maybe even taking any medications, they are more likely to do it because they want to fit in and just become part of the group. The next reason, for many, it's kind of seen as a rite of passage. And so in some universities, a drinking culture is part of being an older person. Like they kind of like see drinking as something that you do when you're at a frat party or when you're with your buddies or with your friends on a weekend night. And then number 5, fewer interactions with parents and older adults. So there aren't anyone around to oversee them. It might be their first time away from the home. They might not have any oversight. And so they feel wild and free, and it's an opportunity to do things and try things that they've never done before. So a lot of students find themselves saying yes to situations where they used to say no to, just because they feel wild free, there's no parents around, they want to have a great time. And number 6, some students still have habits before they came to college. So there may be some students that started to use or drink, but when they were in high school or the time between high school and college. And then whenever they went to college, they kind of brought those habits with them. And it wasn't a big deal for them to pick up where they left off, where if they were drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, taking prescription medications, those types of things. The next question is why or how do we know if drinking is a problem? Well, that's a great question. How do we know if drinking is a problem? Well, first of all, any type of underage drinking is a problem. Let's just say that. Drinking underage is a problem because not only is it illegal, but also the brain of a younger person is still developing, and it can actually interrupt the development of the brain. So binge drinking is a problem as well, and binge drinking is drinking alcohol at a fast rate. So a pattern of drinking alcohol that brings the blood alcohol concentration to a 0.08% or higher. So 0.08 is legally intoxicated, by the way. If you were to get pulled over by law enforcement and they made you blow into a machine and it showed anything higher than a 0.08, that would show that you are legally intoxicated. So anything, a pattern of drinking alcohol that brings the blood alcohol concentration to a 0.08 for a typical adult, this pattern corresponds to drinking about 5 or more drinks, or for a female, it only takes about 4 or more drinks in a short period of time. So just think of binge drinking as drinking a lot in a short period of time. For students who binge drink, getting drunk is often the main goal, and getting drunk can lead to other dangers. Like, for instance, they can get very dizzy, they can lose their coordination, and they can fall. It can cause physical issues like diarrhea, vomiting. It can cause lack of judgment, making poor judgment, poor decisions. They can pass out. And if a person vomits while passing out, the airway can become blocked, and then they can actually suffocate. And this is also a danger in college situations because if you drink alcohol or use drugs and pass out, you can become a victim of a sexual assault. And so that's one thing that they're talking a lot about, and we're trying to mitigate that and greatly reduce that with our DASH squad. So we have a squad that talks about the dangers of drugs, alcohol, sex, sexual harassment, and hazing, and trying to raise awareness of that and try to get the students to make better decisions. How do we know if drug use is a problem? Well, that's a great question. Well, let's put it this way. Any illicit drug use is a problem. And illicit means illegal, right? So if it's something that you buy in the street, or basically if it's a prescription medication that's not for you, it's illicit. And those are any type of illicit drugs are a problem. Prescription medications can be a problem when they're not used as directed, or when they're someone else's medications. You can notice if drug use is a problem, if you notice changes in the physical appearance or behavior of someone. So if they start looking disheveled, like they're not taking care of themselves anymore, if they start acting erratic, angry, mood changes, those types of things. Sometimes if you notice them being chronically late or not showing up for obligations or work responsibilities, that's a good indication that drugs have become a major part of their life and are interrupting with their daily functioning. Lack of energy when participating in daily activities is a really good indication. If you notice a family member or friend, whenever they're in an activity and they seem to be really out of it, nodding off, falling asleep, that really could be an indication of a drug issue. And then continued usage of the drug or substance even after the consequences. So if they get in trouble with the law, if they get hurt, if they fall, if they wreck the car, any of those consequences and they continue to use or drink is definitely a problem. So what can it hurt? What kind of damage can occur? Let's talk about short term. So drinking or using drugs increases the risk of depression and anxiety and low self-esteem. So you would think that these things would actually help your depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. But studies have shown that although they may help alleviate it for a short period of time, they actually exacerbate or worsen your depression, anxiety, and self-esteem over a long period of time. Drinking can also pose serious health and safety risks. So you can get in a car accident, you can get arrested for drunk driving, you can be involved in a sexual assault, and many other things can occur in the short term. The long term, people who start using drugs or drinking during their college years, they're a lot more likely to develop a substance abuse problem later in life. Over the long term, alcohol and drug use can damage the liver and other organs, leading to premature death. And as you can imagine, if you over the long term, alcohol and drug use can damage your body, and even if you don't die, it can really reduce your quality of life over the long term. So here's some consequences for college students. And I don't know if you can kind of see this, but on the left-hand side, there's alcohol use, drug use, and mental health. The reason why mental health is on there is because it's so closely correlated. It's so closely linked to alcohol and drug use, because one can lead to the other or vice versa. So in the intermediary, like in the beginning stages, if someone is experiencing a drug problem, an alcohol problem, or a mental health problem, or any combination of those three things, these are the types of consequences that can happen. At first, they may experience skipping class. They may notice that they're studying a lot less than they used to. They may have decreased motivation and not feeling like going to class or completing their assignments. They may have poor quality sleep or just getting less hours of sleep per night. And then they may have cognitive problems. They may have problems concentrating in the classroom, concentrating whenever it's time to do homework, things like that. Then if they continue to use or drink, they may notice the short-term manifestations of the declining GPA. They may notice their grade point average is going down because they're not passing their classes. They may start dropping classes because of non-attendance. They might not be able to make it to school when they're hungover or whenever they're out of it from drugs. They may end up staying home and over time may end up dropping classes. They also might lose out on a lot of other opportunities like internships, work opportunities, special studies, scholarships, anything else that is a positive thing that comes along with college, they may miss out on. So that's the short term. Now let's talk about long-term outcomes. So long-term outcomes of people who have these issues, they may have a delayed graduation. Like maybe they went into school wanting to graduate in 4 years, but since they've been dropping so many classes and not doing the studying, their graduation date was pushed back. Maybe they have a failure to graduate altogether. Maybe they have the attenuation of goals, like the goals that they wanted for themselves are not happening anymore. They're just too far out of reach. Maybe they have the lack of readiness for employment. So they're just like, they're not employable. They're not ready to enter the workplace because they're having a hard time functioning day to day due to their drug or alcohol use or mental health issues. And then underemployment. And underemployment basically means that you are employed at a level lower than what your goal is. So like if you at after 4 years of college, you were wanting to have a career in criminal justice or business, something like that, but you haven't completed your goal of graduating, you may still work at a place that is showing underemployment. For instance, you may still work at the coffee shop that you were at or the diner, and there's nothing wrong with these roles. The only thing is that that's not the goal that you had for yourself. There's nothing wrong with these jobs. I just mean that you're just not at the goal that you had for yourself at that point in your life. So you feel underemployed. So these are just some of the consequences that college students can experience when they drink, use drugs, or have those mental health issues. Let's take a look at the research, because the research is very important when it comes to students and drugs. So the research shows that students who take prescription drugs for non-medical reasons are at least 5 times more likely to develop a drug abuse problem than those who don't. So, which basically means that if they're taking prescription drugs for feeling better, like if they're taking a pain pill to feel better about their mood, for instance, the likelihood of them experiencing a drug abuse problem is so much higher. That's scary research. Here's some more research. On average, 1,825 college students between the ages of 18 and 24 die each year due to alcohol-related injuries. That's a lot of deaths that can be prevented by using alcohol or drugs safely or not at all. And then here's some recent news. Drug overdose deaths have doubled over the past 6 years, soaring in recent months amid the COVID-19 pandemic and the continued rise of fentanyl. In 2022, researchers found a staggering, it's over 100,000 people died in the US of a drug overdose in a 12-month period. That's the highest that it's ever been. Data from the CDC and prevention shows the avalanche of drug overdose deaths are driven largely by the spread of illicit fentanyl. And so if you're not really familiar with fentanyl, it's time to get used to hearing that name. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. That's way stronger and more likely to cause an overdose for someone who does not have a tolerance. Fentanyl is added to heroin to increase its potency. Many users don't know that they are purchasing fentanyl, which often results in overdose deaths. So since the printing of this, they have also found that fentanyl is highly addictive, and they've been placing fentanyl in other drugs as well. So they've been placing fentanyl in methamphetamines, heroin, any other type of pill. Also, drug dealers have found a way to create their own pills. So they're able to create and use fentanyl and stamp new pills that look just like regular prescription medications, and they're causing people of all ages to overdose. Over 150 people die every single day from an overdose in the United States related to the synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Any street drug can contain deadly levels of fentanyl, and you wouldn't be able to see it, taste it, or smell it. I want to encourage you to find out more about fentanyl so that you can have some courageous conversations with family and friends and people that you might be concerned about. So this is my favorite part of the presentation. We're going to talk about some solutions. Solutions are some of the best things because, in fact, when people are experiencing a lot of the reasons why they use drugs and alcohol, for instance, to enhance their mood, to cope with stress, to fit in, all of these things, their anxiety, their depression, there are actually positive things that you can use instead of drinking and instead of smoking marijuana or using other drugs that can help promote wellness, and it can do so in a more healthy way. For example, mindfulness. Mindfulness is a powerful exercise that you can do to increase your awareness, to increase your serenity and peace, living in the moment, to reduce anxiety and depression. And it's a great alternative to drinking and using. Physical exercise is the next one. That should be number one, actually, because physical exercise is the thing that can change the physiology of your brain. So if you think about the brain of a typical human being, we we send out chemical messengers and neurotransmitters and hormones all the time. When you get stressed, you have a hormone called cortisol that starts to go through your system. So the beautiful thing about exercise is exercise helps to flush out the cortisol that is in your system, but it also helps to release endorphins. And endorphins are like a natural feel-good chemical that gets released into your brain and gives you a more positive mood. So physical exercise has great short-term benefits because of that, but it also has great long-term benefits because it helps you to live longer, have a better quality of life, and it also helps you to feel good about yourself when you exercise. So those are all really great ideas. The next one is disconnecting from devices and screens. So I know nowadays we stay pretty connected to our devices and to our screens, but they have adverse health effects. They have adverse effects um, on our thinking, on our physiology. And so getting away, getting up, walking around, getting out of the office, getting out of the classroom or your bedroom, getting off your phone, put the phone down, get away from that blue light that's being emitted from the screen, and allow yourself to do some healthy and natural things instead. Um, Another positive thing is plugging into a healthy support system. So we all have people around us, but what we would love to do is to have loving and supportive people who care about us and that we can talk to when things are not going well. So the more healthy people that you have around you, the more likely you are to have a better sense of mental health and to feel supported. So please keep that in mind. And if you don't feel like you have a healthy support system, I really want to encourage you to do a little bit more research on the topic and get out there and try to find what healthy relationships look like and how to foster healthy relationships. And number five is reaching out to community resources because we have lots of resources available to us. I know a lot of times we like to go solo and handle situations on our own, but community resources, many of them are free or low cost. They include life coaching. You can go do yoga, massage, or acupuncture. Go in for some personal counseling. I know right here at Tarrant County College, we have free personal counseling for our students. Something you can take full advantage of, not pay a dime, and it could be very healthy and supportive. If you have some very serious issues, we can always help refer you to a place in the community that can offer high quality care. There are inpatient and outpatient treatment facilities for people who have mental health or substance abuse issues. We can help to refer you to those. And then there are also 12-step programs of all kinds, not just 12-step programs for like drinking or drugging, but 12-step programs for pretty much everything you can think of that are positive and they're geared towards improving your quality of life. One of the organizations in the area that we like to refer people to is called the Recovery Resource Council. It is a nonprofit agency in Fort Worth, and they specialize in finding treatment options for people that don't have insurance. They also have mental health counseling for veterans and their family members that's free of charge. So as a veteran counselor myself, I do refer veteran students to this place, and they have had a lot of positive results. Are you familiar with stigma? Well, a stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. So, for example, the stigma of having gone to prison will always be with me. That is a statement that kind of describes it. There's also a stigma related to addiction and recovery. That's why addiction and recovery are such a hard topic to discuss. And so the stigma does keep people from seeking help for alcohol or drug problems. It keeps people from talking about it. It keeps people from feeling comfortable having conversations. And so sometimes we have to have very courageous conversations when it comes to that. Here's the number one myth. If I ask for help, people will see me as a drug addict or alcoholic. That is not true. In fact, there's a lot of people in the United States that have a drug or alcohol issue. And the more we normalize that, the more likely people will feel comfortable coming and getting help. They also have a group called Students in Recovery, and they are based out of the Northeast campus. And their mission is to provide a supportive community where students in recovery and in hopes of recovery can achieve academic success while enjoying a genuine college experience free from alcohol or drugs. It's a great group, and you can find them on Canvas, so I encourage you to look them up. Also, you may have heard of DASH. Here at Tarrant County College, we have the DASH Squad. That's drugs, alcohol, sex, harassment, and hazing. And it's a prevention initiative that promotes healthy behaviors through comprehensive and intentional educational programming. So if you see DASH come up, I want to encourage you to attend their events. They can be very informative, and it can give you some ideas on how to share new ideas with your friends and family. All right. Well, thank you so much for attending this today. If you are watching online or watching the recording, I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My name is Angel Ayala. You can email me at angel.ayala@tccd.edu, and you can reach me by phone at 817-515-1273. Thanks again. I hope this was informative. I hope you have something to take away with you today. And once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.